Right now in Alberta, you can head to a bookstore or a museum and even get your hair cut as the province started reopening some businesses yesterday. But not if you're in Calgary, along with the city of Brooks. Calgary's reopening is being delayed by the Kenney government. Why? And how will the city enforce a lockdown when most of the province reopens? Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi joins us for more and to answer all these questions. Hi, Mayor. Nice to see you. Nice to have you on the show.
Hi.
So I'm wondering, parts of your province are reopening restaurants and hair salons in Edmonton, for instance, but your city is not partaking in sort of the great and gradual reopening of phase one due to the high number of cases in Calgary. You know, some of your businesses were set to open and then told, no, sorry, guys, you can't open now. Have you been given clear guidelines now?
Yes, very much so. And to be clear, in fact, much of Calgary did open today. Retail stores were allowed to open. Childcare centers were allowed to open. The two big things that were not allowed to open for another 10 days are restaurants and hair salons. Now, the hair salons, but some of us need it a lot. Ultimately, this was an evidence-based decision, a decision really based on community transmission and based on public health. And for me, that's the critical issue here, is that whatever we do has to, in fact, be evidence-based. And so, you know, we have been pushing the province for a couple of weeks now to say, look, show us what your targets are and make it very clear that if you meet this target, you get to go to the next stage. If you don't meet this target, you don't. And ultimately, that is what the province did. Now, as you mentioned, some people were very disappointed because the province did do something odd, which is they waited to make the announcement until 3:30 in the afternoon, the day before the stores were supposed to open yesterday, or I should say the restaurants and the hair salons were supposed to open. And this is a particular problem for some restaurants. You see, here in Alberta, we always allowed takeout and delivery. But there was a small number of restaurants that were not otherwise open for takeout and delivery who did think they would open for 50% of capacity dine-in services. And basically, they ordered a lot of food. And so we've been asked to make a lot of sacrifices over the course of this COVID epidemic. We've been asked to stay home. We've been asked to watch a lot of movies. And so I'm asking Calgarians to make another big sacrifice this long weekend: eat a lot. And if you've got the means, order a lot of pickup and delivery from these restaurants so that we can use up the food that they've ordered.
Okay. Eating a lot is not a sacrifice, Mayor. But I understand what you mean. But, you know, I was listening to you earlier this week, saying that, you know, these decisions are the provincial government's decision, but you have to enforce them. The cities have to enforce these guidelines. So
Indeed.
do you think it will be more difficult in Calgary? Because in other parts of the province, it's more open?
No, I really don't think so. You know, everybody knows what the rules are by now. Citizens know about you have to stay 2 meters or 6 feet, or as I say, the length of a full-grown llama away from one another, that we have to work hard to prevent the spread of disease. And businesses know. I mean, some of them are frustrated, but I'm not anticipating a lot of law breaking over the course of this long weekend. But I'm also reminding people that this reopening doesn't mean that the virus is gone. It's still there. And there's still no treatment. There's still no cure. There's still no vaccine. And ultimately, the reason that we are able to ease restrictions across the country now is because Canadians have done a really good job on flattening the curve, because citizens have done an excellent job on abiding by these rules. But I have to remind everybody that there may be room in the ICU for you, but most people who go into the ICU die. And so we have to work hard to ensure that we're doubling down. We're still maintaining that physical distance, that absolutely we are using masks and face coverings to cover our nose and mouth every time we go somewhere where we might run into people we don't know and where our contacts can't be traced. And if we do that, then we will be able to flatten the curve even further. And not only will Calgary catch up to the rest of the province in 10 days' time, but also we will be able to ease restrictions further.
Okay, I don't have a lot of time, but, you know, I know that cities are in financial trouble, yours and most big cities in the country. Your revenues have decreased. We all understand that. So Are there programs there for you? Are you confident that as, you know, the federal government unveils or extends aid programs to businesses and individuals, that you will get some help as well?
Well, the city of Calgary, which has never before run a deficit, is looking at a shortfall by the end of the year of between $240 and $400 million. And ultimately, the provinces and the federal government have to step in. It's not fair to the cities to say, just increase your property taxes or massively cut the essential services that citizens are relying on next year. That's just not a go. And so ultimately, there's this endless game of pass the buck between the federal and provincial government saying, this is your responsibility, no, it's your responsibility. But as Premier Ford of Ontario said this week, it's important that all three parties get to the table quickly so that cities can continue to provide the essential services we provide every day and that are particularly important during the pandemic.
I'm going to have to leave it there. Mayor Naheed Nenshi of Calgary, thanks so much for being there. Have a nice long weekend and stay safe.
Always a pleasure. Everyone stay safe this long weekend, and let's get through this all together.